Hello everyone, it's time for another episode of Cooking with Robbie. And tonight we're gonna do another Americanized favorite, spaghetti. Because what better to do on a cold day than check out a nice plate of spaghetti. So as your normal, we're gonna go over our ingredients list. So let's turn this around here real quick. So from the side, we got our strainer, our boiling pot for the noodles. We have some olive oil, some Hunt spaghetti sauce in a can, some spinach noodles. If you see, I'll spin that around here because I'm trying to be healthy. I've actually never had these before, but we'll see what we got. Some Parmesan cheese, and we got about, it's actually a lot more than we're gonna need for this recipe, 1.5 pounds of ground beef. But we're gonna separate that up. As far as the spices you'll need, we're gonna need some oregano, some garlic powder, and some onion powder. Also some red pepper to add a little bit of that zing to it. And that should be about all we need to make our canned spaghetti sauce actually edible. So I'm gonna go ahead and prep some stuff up, but that's our intro and our ingredients list. I think your total prep time for this meal is gonna be about a half hour. You can also complement your spaghetti with some toast. I like to make a couple of pieces of toast, but really I'm just gonna eat a lot of this spaghetti, so I'm not gonna make the toast tonight. So yeah, actually, nah, we're not gonna make the toast. We're just gonna make the spaghetti. That's gonna be plenty to eat. So we'll go ahead and get started. So unfortunately tonight, I do not have my handy dandy cell phone holder. I've walked back and forth throughout the house looking for it, and I just can't find it. And Hope has gotten worried to death because every time I walk back and forth, she thinks we're going somewhere. So she'll run to the car and get ready to jump in, then she'll run to the door and act like we're going somewhere. So I've given up on finding it for tonight, so we're just gonna go with the good old fashioned. So I'm gonna walk you through it from the this kind of a point of view. So first thing we're gonna do, we wanna get the water boiling. Let's go ahead and fill our pot about halfway of water. And I'm gonna cook all of the spaghetti so I can have something to eat throughout the week. These are great for leftovers. Some people say that the longer they sit in the refrigerator, the better it tastes. But I kind of disagree on that. So yep, our pot's about half full. And we're gonna bring that on over here. And I've got the little burners and the big burners on the thing. We wanna go ahead and get this burning. So I'm gonna turn my vent fan on, get my surface light, get my cooking light, and we're gonna crank the burner. Woo! All right, so we got that going. Get it to a temperature where it's gonna boil. Let me adjust this a little bit again. And get it to a temperature where it is gonna boil eventually. But we got our water, we got it on the front. I'm gonna go ahead and get a spoon. This requires constant stirring. Another little trick I like to do, especially when you're working with sauce, is you get a little dish and you put it in the middle, and we're gonna use that to keep our spoon and keep the stovetop from getting to be such a mess. But anyway, we got our water, we got the temperature on. We're gonna take our olive oil and we're just gonna put a little splash in there. It don't take much, maybe a little more. 2 splashes of olive oil. And I'm gonna get us some salt. Mine have caps on them, so I have to take the caps off every time I use them. For now, I'm just gonna put the caps to the side. But if you've got these little salt and pepper grinders that come with the caps, don't throw the caps away. Because if you do, they'll start getting moisture inside and they'll clump up. If you keep the caps on, they're not gonna clump up on you. We're just gonna put a little salt in there, a little salt. just a few grams of salt. I don't understand scientifically, but supposedly that keeps it from boiling over. There's not much I cook that actually boils over, maybe because I put the salt in. I don't know, but we're gonna go with that. So we got our water on the hot, we got our oil in there, we got our salt. Now it's time to move on to browning up our hamburger meat. So I'm gonna go ahead and get me a pan out for that. We're gonna want a lid for that pan. I don't seem to have a lid for this pan. I wonder what happened to all my lids. I got some lids in here. Let's stop. I got it. I got it. Well, it's not for this pan. Actually, I think I'll just use the bigger pan because that one will actually fit. I'm gonna set this one to the side. We'll get our bigger pan. Cooking is an art. If it was a science, it wouldn't be fun. Well, I guess it would be. I mean, science can be fun too, but I don't know. I just try to make some small talk. Put my pans up. And this one should fit right on there. Yes. So we've got, well, this pan really doesn't go on there either. It kind of goes on there. I don't know where my lids went. If this pan doesn't fit on there, I guess I've got another pan somewhere. Nah. This is the only pans I have. But this lid kind of fits on there. So once you get your beef brown and your seasoning on it, you're going to want a lid to keep it from just splattering all over the place. We're going to go ahead and crank this one up too. You can get it on a low heat. And as I said before, we're not going to use all of this ground beef. We're just going to use a little bit. So I'm going to get one of these little guys. Set all that to the side. We're going to open up our ground beef. Oh, hope detects that something is up. So the first thing, I think we're going to use about half of this ground beef. Let me throw this wrapper in the garbage. Hey, you get down. Don't you mess with that. All right. So we've got a knife. Put that back on top of there. And I promise you all in the audience that Hope did not just get into the hamburger. So I'm going to cut it right about in half. I'm thinking maybe it's time for an episode about how to make a good burger. So that might be what we use this other half of our hamburger meat on. So we're just going to take this half right after I wash my hands. Alright, now I'm going to take this half and we're going to sit it under our thing. It's still got a little warming up to do because it didn't sizzle. I'm going to wash my hands again. You can never wash your hands too many times when working with raw material. Me personally, I would be wearing gloves right now, but gloves, I don't know. All right, hands are clean. We'll save this paper towel in case we need that for something else. And now we're gonna start seasoning up this beef that I just put onto the heat. I'm gonna put a few things with some pepper on there. I'm gonna put a little bit of salt on there. Go ahead and put some garlic powder on there. And put some oregano. onto there. My house is gonna be smelling like Super Mario Brothers. A little bit of some onion powder onto there. Now this is important. Crushed red pepper goes in the sauce. Don't put it on the beef, because if you put it in this frying pan, it starts cooking up, it'll burn your face off. Well, something about burning that hot stuff, the spicy stuff. I've done this before. I speak from some experience. So, now, we got that browning. I'm gonna crank the heat on a little bit because it didn't sizzle. We do got a flame under there. It's de-thawed and everything. Actually, before I do that, let's go ahead and put this in the freezer. Huh. But what do you know? I'm out of parchment paper. So we're just going to use aluminum foil. So we're going to wrap up our meat with some aluminum foil. You have to do it. Oh, I can smell the hamburger cooking. So we wrap it up real nice in our aluminum foil. We got us a nice serving of some hamburger meat here. We'll put it in our freezer bag. And there we go. So squish that down. Let me grab my marker here so we know what it is. Now, I use a dry erase marker. Something about when these things get cold, it really don't want to come off. I think it's kind of like drying out. So if it dries out the marker, it don't come off, and it's kind of more permanent, which is good. This is sizzling up real nice. I'm going to go ahead and flip it. Carefully flip it so it don't splatter oil everywhere. The art. Alright. I'm going to put a little bit more of the favorite seasonings on this side. A little more oregano. I don't know. I just really like oregano flavoring in the beef. A lot of places you go, you can't really taste that oregano. Hey, did y'all notice that rhyme? But when you go to Robbie's restaurant, you will have the oregano. There will be no lack of oregano. All right, we're letting that cook a little bit. Now we're gonna get our saucepan out. Did you see my little technique? I always like doing that with rackets and baseball bats and stuff. It's one of my specialties. If I ever open up my restaurant, it'll be like hibachi style cooking where they're doing the knives. I'm just gonna be like, doing this with the pans. I think I'll get just as many people that are interested to see what I can do with frying pans. I'll have a liability. You'll sign a form for liability when you first come into the restaurant. So, a lot of people are probably asking right now, why are you using canned tomato sauce? I, in all of my days, have never used canned tomato sauce. It tastes fine. And you know what? That big old can was $1.25. It's just waiting to be seasoned up in the way I like to eat it. Which I do the same thing with ragu. And you know how much ragu costs? Ragu is like $3 at the store. I remember when you could buy a whole jar of ragu for like $1. So it's really getting kind of ridiculous at these grocery stores. And being that I am a penny pincher, I'm gonna get the last bit of this sauce out. I put a little bit of water in there and I swig it around a little bit because it's gonna cook that water out. But I don't want to be deprived of my little bit of extra sauce. So I pour it on right in there. And we're gonna get one started in the rear on low heat. Not the lowest, because at first you do want to cook in some of that flavoring. And we're definitely going to need a lid for this, because it's going to start boiling here in a bit. But we have a more pressing thing. Our beef is starting to simmer up real nicely here in the pan, so we're going to break that up a little bit. Now you got a couple of options here. We're going with the easy option. I'm making a meat sauce. And all you got to do is just kind of break it up, and keep it from burning. So we just work it up. Let's stir it a little bit, shuffle it around. And you might find an easier time at this point using a spatula to kind of stir it, or flip it, I mean, because it's hard to flip with a spoon. I am going to go ahead and get that ready. Now it's not quite ready to flip it yet. Our sauce just got the heat to it. So I gotta find a cover for the sauce, which I see this one right over here. That looks about the right size. And we'll sit that there. It is the perfect size. Exactly the right size for the application. So we'll put this cover here. We're gonna lower that heat on the meat just a hair. We're gonna take this cover off. And we're gonna put the good stuff in there. So I already know what this stuff tastes like. We're just gonna sprinkle some onion powder. We're gonna douse it with oregano. Yes. Y'all have been waiting for me to say that, I know it. Yes. Some garlic, I already put the garlic on. I'll put a little bit of onion in there. And you are going to want, if you want it a little spicier, this is where you put the sauce, the red pepper in. Just kind of sprinkle it in there, and I promise you, all you spicy people out there are going to love it. Love it. And this is going to be our first. Now, I've got this raw, nasty meat on my spoon. I'm going to put it in the sauce, because the sauce is going to be cooking too. This is just more flavoring. All right, so we mix in everything real good. And sit that there, put our cover on. We're just gonna let that do its thing. And now we're gonna check out our hamburger meat. Let's go ahead and get, now our water is just starting to boil, which is good. It's getting ready for our spaghetti, our noodles. And I'm gonna go ahead and get this guy. Before we flip this, I've got a lot of oil built up here, and we can go ahead and handle that. So I'm going to get a bowl. I'm going to put it in our sink. And it's hard to see this, but I am going to do a trick here. I put the cover back on, and I'm just going to kind of break that seal to where there is a gap so that the grease can come out, but the hamburger won't. And we're just going to pour that into the bowl that's sitting in the sink. All right. I didn't get all of it, but I got a lot of it. And I'm going to take a towel, a paper towel, and this is off camera. Before you put it back on that flame, you want to wipe the side where the oil was spilling out so that you don't end up with a fire. Shake it up, shake it up. All right, now we're going to put our spices to the side for now. Put our cover over here. Spatula out, and we're going to flip the meat. Flipping the meat. You know, I think it is time to do the hamburger episode next. because I have been inspired on my recent trips to the Highway 55 to show people how to make a good burger using just salt and pepper and probably some garlic and onion powder in there too, but it's so easy. And the quality that I've been getting from Highway 55 has really been disturbing lately. Yep, so we're just chopping up our ground meat. We did flip it. So we're just spreading it out. I'm gonna sit that spatula right there on my little mess plate. Put the cover back on, and we're just gonna let it brown for just a little bit more. I'm not gonna add any heat to it. Now our water is right where it needs to be. So I'm gonna go ahead and get our spaghetti noodles. And I'm gonna cook this whole mamma jamma. I'm gonna get the whole box in there. Well, that's a lot of spaghetti. Much more than I actually need to cook. So I'm gonna try to grab about half of the spaghetti. Because that's still, it's kind of hard to imagine that this is all you need to eat for dinner, but it does. Now, I don't see the difference. A lot of these Italian cooks say don't break the spaghetti. They're like, oh, don't do it. So for their sake, I'm not gonna do it. I'm just gonna put it right in there like this. Now, I know it's gonna sit on the side, but the heat and the humidity is gonna make the noodles bend. Eventually the whole thing will get in there. And I like to take a fork and a spoon and kind of roll up my spaghetti anyway. So it works for me. At this point, our hamburger meat is browning up some more. Now, I never took that bowl out of there, and it's got a lot more grease in there still. So at this point, I'm gonna drain it one more time, and we're gonna put it right in there with our sauce. So while that noodles is doing their thing, sometimes they need a little bit of help. Just kind of press down on it. I think it's one of them patience things. Like if you've got the patience to let the noodles kind of fall in on their own, pour a little bit of that water on there and they'll fall right in there. Some of that boiling hot water. It will not take them long. So we're gonna go and drain the rest of our spaghettis here. It's hard to describe how good this smells, but it smells really good. I'm pulling my stuff off of the heat for a second. I've got my nice spaghetti meat here, and I'm just going to use this spoon. I'm just going to gently, slowly kind of get everything into the sauce. And the goal is not to make it splash. And I did a good job. So we got our spaghetti meat in there. Our noodles are pretty much falling in like as expected. I've got my pile of dishes over here, which I know that's kind of against my rules, but sometimes when you cook something good, you're just gonna have to deal with having dishes. It's just the way it is. And this is gonna be delicious, I guarantee it. Hope knows it. That's why she keeps circling around like she's gonna get some food. She probably will. She probably will. The only thing we have left is our sauces. I can tell it's gonna be perfect. I'm gonna sit that there. And we're gonna put our cover back on there. And we're gonna come back in a few minutes once our noodles finish cooking. But once the water starts boiling, you wanna leave them in there for about 5 to 10 minutes with that water boiling after the noodles have all fallen in. And I'm gonna do a little cleanup in the kitchen while we're waiting for that to happen, and we'll see you here in just a minute. All right, so our break is done, and we are pretty much ready to eat. So I wanted to showcase what we've got real quick. So we are just about to pull our noodles off of the burner. And as you can see here, they're boiling. They're all sitting in there real nice. I've been stirring them, just kind of pushing them around a little bit, making sure they're staying separated. And despite the fact that they're green because they're spinach-based noodles, everything is looking pretty good. You can kind of get one out of there if you can. And we're going to do the taste test. Oh, this is so difficult to do while holding the camera. I sure wish I had my thingamajiggy. Oh, I got one. So I got one to kind of go over the side, and I want to gently grab out of it and try not to burn my hand. It's not that hot. All right, so we got our little noodle, and I'm going to taste test it. Needs a couple more minutes, but it's getting there. These noodles kind of have a sweet flavor to them. I like it. It's not bad. Now, for the thing that most people were probably questioning my judgment on was this can of Hunt's spaghetti sauce that came in the can. So look at this. Look at that sauce. Got that meat in it. It's just smelling so good. It smells like vine ripe tomatoes. It smells amazing. And I've tasted it, and it is delicious. Delicious. Let me get me a little spoon. Just a little spoon so y'all know I'm not telling a story. There's my little spoonful. It's hot as heck. But just for the fans, I'm going to blow on it a little bit. Oh, Lord Jesus, it's good. Very tasty. Very flavorful. So again, I'm just going to put the cap on it. We're going to let it do its thing. And now we are going to prepare. Got my strainer. I'm going to bring it over here to the sinky sink. Now there's my oil there. What I like to do with that, especially since it's just about time to feed Hope, I'm going to take a little bit of that grease and I'm going to make her food taste better. I'm just going to pour some of that hamburger grease onto her food so that she doesn't bother me while I'm eating. That's another little tip from the Robbie's Kitchen. If you give the dog something that tastes about as good as my food tastes better than dog food, but she really likes her hamburger grease on her food. So this is a perfect solution for both of us. So, like I said, we're putting our strainer here in the sink. Let me get a light on over here because there's a secret here too. So once our spaghetti noodles are 100% finished, which like I said, it still needed a couple more minutes, I got my Parmesan cheese here, and instead of putting the Parmesan cheese on top, what you do, once you get your noodles strained, you just pour that Parmesan cheese straight onto the noodles, and it kind of melts onto the noodles. It is so good. I don't know where I saw that. Maybe it was on TV or something, but it definitely works. And that's one less thing you got to take out to the table, so it makes your cleanup a little bit faster. So I'm pretty much done with cleanup. Those few minutes I had, you can see my countertop is bare. I need to go over it with the wipe. I'm probably going to make some tea after this, but for the meal, I'm probably going to have Pepsi as my drink of choice for this meal. So things are coming together nicely. I'm going to give it a couple more minutes before we strain the noodles, but here in just a minute, I'll show you all the finished product, and it'll be time to eat. So we'll see you guys again here in just a minute. Guys, it is time to eat. So as you can see here, I have strained my noodles. I have put my Parmesan cheese on and kind of shuffled it around. And again, once you put the Parmesan, you just kind of shuffle it a little bit, and it is good to go. We've got our tomato sauce here. I have cut the heat on. And as you can see, it is looking good and it is ready to go. So I'm gonna get me a plate and it is time to eat. And there it is, the final product.